The Mavericks start off the new year on a bad note as they fall to the Houston Rockets on the road. We'll break it all down here. Coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato, Mavericks analyst Bobby Carell, and our national NBA insider, Mark Stein. We are DLLS Mavs. Really appreciate you joining us here on our post-game show. You can find me at Kevin Gray Sports, at Tim_Cato, at Bobby Carell. And you can always dial up the Stein line for our national NBA insider, Mark Stein, at the Stein line. Unfortunately, a bad start to the new year for your Dallas Mavericks as they fall 110-99 on the road to the Houston Rockets to finish up their road trip at 1-3, and unfortunately losing their third straight game as they get ready to head back to the American Airlines Center on Friday to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll break it all down here for you over the course of the next hour. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to DLLS Sports while you're here, and let us know your thoughts on how tonight's game went for your Mavericks. The Rockets had 5 guys in double figures, including Alperen Sengun, who had 23 points. Jalen Green had 22. Meanwhile, your Dallas Mavericks had 4 guys in double figures, led by Quentin Grimes, who had 17 points. One of the stories of this game, though, P.J. Washington was not able to play the second half, injuring his right knee in the first half. He was not able to play in the second half due to a right knee sprain for your Dallas Mavericks. That's how we kick off our post-game show here, gentlemen. In a night filled with turnovers, not enough shot making, not great center play, a lot of things to digest for a Mavericks team that has now lost 3 straight games here.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with the one optimistic thing, the one positive you can take from this game. It's that Dereck Lively is back, and I thought when he was on the court for 20 minutes, just slightly more than the minutes restriction that was named for him by Jason Kidd before the game, Dallas looked like a competent team. They look like a good team. They're +5 in those 20 minutes. You know, it's not a perfect stat. If he played 35 minutes, it by no means guarantees Dallas is going to win that game. But Dallas looks so much better when he's out there. And as much as we talk about, is it PJ? I mean, Dereck Lively is this team's second most important player. He straight up is. You know, nobody after Luka changes the way Dallas looks on the court when he's out there more than him. And to get a fully healthy Dereck Lively back just matters so much. Now, you know, keeps getting these occasional knocks and, you know, going out for stretches. But I am still not, you know, totally pessimistic about Dallas this, you know, in the stretch to come that obviously we know is going to be Luka-less, and, you know, still a few other players. Certainly a lot of eyes on P.J. Washington right now, and, you know, any news that's going to come out about him. But I'm not, you know, if there's one reason to be optimistic, and I believe this genuinely, this isn't just, you know, this isn't cope, you know. I think that this team is much better when Dereck Lively is out there.
I just want to know why everybody got a lump of coal on Christmas Day. The Christmas Day game, you lose Luka, you lose Lively. The Phoenix game, the very next game, you lose PJ, you lose Najee. The very next game, Kyrie and Klay play, I guess, which was cool, but then you lost them the next game. And now you lose PJ. That's 5 games in a row that guys have been out. You know, and like Luka's going to be out for a long time, so this is not new, and everybody gets hurt all the time. It's like, it is what it is. But these are your main guys. Like, this team's best players have all missed games, one after the other, 5 games in a row now. And I don't know the timetable on PJ's deal. Mark, I'm sure you're working the phones. Tim, I'm sure you'll be asking around.
I mean, obviously I'm not in Houston, but I'm trying to get as much info as I can. And naturally, you would imagine that everyone who goes to the podium will be asked about PJ Washington.
Yeah, and it's just every game, and you might be without him for a while now too. And I am begging the basketball gods for one normal game, one time, when I get to see the Dallas Mavericks play basketball. That would be super awesome and great. In the meantime, we've gotten this, and it sucks. I don't like it. I don't like this. Smash that like button if you agree.
The Mavericks tonight played their 16th different lineup in their first 34 games.
Starting lineup.
Yeah, starting lineup as far as their first 34 games are concerned. So you talk about, Bobby, the lack of continuity that the team has had. That number kind of speaks to some of that. Tim, to what you were speaking of when it came to Dereck Lively, in the 20 minutes that he played, I mean, he absolutely stuffed the stat sheet. I mean, he had 8 points, he had 4 blocks, had 6 assists as well, along with a steal. So Dereck Lively doing the part that he could. Obviously was in a little bit of foul trouble in the first half, wound up finishing the game with the 4 fouls in the 20 minutes that he played, but just was appreciably better in the time that he was on the floor versus his teammate, unfortunately, Daniel Gafford tonight in 11 minutes and 45 seconds, 4 points, 4 rebounds, and was a negative 27 in the near 12 minutes that he played. And at one point in the second quarter, and we'll get to what was the turning point of the game a little bit later on in the show, but just to kind of give you a little bit of a picture of it, I mean, Alperen Sengun, the Rockets made a concerted effort in the second quarter once Lively was dealing with his foul trouble, put Sengun in the paint and let him go to work on Daniel Gafford, and they did it repeatedly throughout the course of the first half. Jalen Green and Cam Whitmore started getting to the basket at will late in the first half, and Bobby, from there, I mean, the Rockets had license to get to the rim. There really wasn't any true rim protection, no really point of attack defense as well. The Rockets felt like they could get any kind of shot that they wanted to because they had the creative license to do it, especially in the first half there.
Yeah, and it's a big problem. It's a big problem. And we did a watch along for this game. So if you, for some reason, are feeling real sadistic or whatever, you want to go back and watch us do that.
That was recorded?
That was live on the internet. All the forums were abuzz.
Yeah, they were. Yes,
but we had the Gafford talk during the game, and I'm sure we're about to do that right now. But like, here's the deal. Gafford, we all agree Gafford is a really, really good backup center. But we all also agree that he struggles with stretch bigs. But lately, he's also struggled with bangers. He could not control Sabonis. He could not control DeAndre Ayton. Tonight, Sengun was getting whatever he wanted against him. Earlier this season, Lively was better against Jokic than Gafford was, and Lively is much, much skinnier and slighter than Jokic. So if one limitation is dealing with stretch fives and another is dealing with more traditional and conventional bigs, then what is his strength? And right now, his strength is beating up backups on bad teams. And that there is value in that. There is value in that. But they need more than that right now because they're not playing many bad teams for the next month. And when they are playing bad teams, it's the second night of a back-to-back. Or it's without Luka and PJ, where everyone has to produce more and give more and step up. Now, every player is entitled to have a bad game and a bad week. It happens. Every player on this team has had a bad game. Kyrie was very bad tonight. Luka's had bad stretches this season. Gafford's not alone in that endeavor, but they need more, and it's been a consistent problem defensively with him and on the glass with him, and they just need more. They need more.
Mark, this is a team that started 5-7. Then they rip off 14 of 17 and now have lost 4 or 5. The season with every team in this league, there's ebbs and flows, but you also, when you start looking at how these games have gone recently here, is there cause for concern for you when you look at how the games have been lost and the way that certain players are playing, given what they are going to be asked to do going forward here without their superstar and Luka Doncic, and what that means for how this season could potentially look for this team?
I just feel like we constantly marveled at how the schedule played out, and this team somehow played only 4 home games in the space of 40 days, which was just, I can't stop citing that stat because it's so staggering and so rare. I truly don't remember a stretch like that ever. Maybe it's happened, but I certainly don't have the dates at my fingertips. But this 4-game trip was longer than that 40-day stretch. Like, this 4-game trip was really as bad as it could be.
There are weeks where years happen.
I mean, and it just like, the best antidote to what's happened in the last 2 games was they should have won the Portland game. And like that really stings right now because they fly home tonight and welcome home. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who are only on a 72-10 pace, are here to welcome you. I mean, this Cavs team, I wrote about this earlier this week. Like, we are not. Cleveland is just ridiculous. They're 29-4. Like, why are we not talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers? And now the Mavs are going to have to face that steamroller head on. I mean, it's
really bad news.
It is. The Cavs went 12-1 in December, and I think 10 of the 11 to 12, all but one of the wins was by 10 or more. I mean, they are just rolling. And so it's not exactly like coming home is going to fix everything. And again, I mean, look, we can talk about Gafford. We can talk about things that happened in this game. I mean, to me right now, it's just like, what is the PJ Washington situation? Like that? Yeah. That is how I would judge everything right now. Because you got it. Luka Doncic is probably not going to play in January. I mean, you just have to deal with that fact.
Yes.
There's no getting around it. If you want any chance, like, they cannot afford to miss another frontline. They need every other frontline player to get through that month. And so, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just, I'll have a better analysis for you when we know how bad the PJ situation is.
I mean, to your point, the Mavericks this year are 1-7 in games without PJ Washington. Obviously, we will try to get more of the status for him over the next, the course of the show and over the next couple of days before they take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. But this team now falls to 7-5 without Luka Doncic. And more importantly, I mean, the turnover problem tonight was horrendous. I mean, you commit 20 turnovers. The Rockets scored 22 points off said turnovers. And in a game where you hold the Rockets to what was 32% from 3 and under 50% from the field, the Mavericks themselves shot 53% from the field and nearly 40% from the three-point line. You would think those numbers would give you an indication that the Mavericks could potentially have won this game, but a second quarter really did them in, and unfortunately a lot of things went wrong in that period that allowed the Rockets to be able to break what was a 2-game losing streak of their own, as both teams came into tonight's game on a 2-game skid. The Rockets were the ones that were able to come up with the goods in the end.
The Mavs took 14 fewer shots and 7 fewer free throws.
This is Houston's winning formula.
Yeah.
This is Houston's winning formula.
The Mavs only conceded 4 offensive rebounds tonight. If we would have,
the one part of their winning formula that wasn't.
We would have discussed before the game and said, "Hey, the Rockets don't have Amen Thompson and Eason, and are only going to get 4 offensive rebounds." You would have thought the Mavs could steal this game, and they weren't. They weren't close. I mean, forget what the final score is. The second half, they were not in this.
No,
if we're being real.
Yeah, I thought at various points that they might at least get back into the game, making competitive in ways that we've seen in the past. Not always games that resulted in wins, but at least making competitive. This was a totally uncompetitive game for the entirety of the second half, and not many Mavs games this season you could say that about, but this was one.
There haven't been many teams that have ever made Kyrie look like mortal, helpless.
But they've got the
Rockets.
Oh
my God, they were just throwing bodies at him,
and without Luka out there to take some heat, I mean, it was.
But they didn't have Amen Thompson. They didn't have Tari Eason.
It could have been worse.
They certainly have some personnel to do it, but they had a lot less than you would be accustomed to. You thought that this would be a weaker version of Houston, especially when it came specifically to the hyper athletic point of attack defenders that really bother Kyrie. We're going to talk more about Kyrie in a couple segments, though.
Let's take our first break here on the DLLS Mavs post-game show. What was the turning point of this game, plus more on how the Rockets were able to bottle up Kyrie Irving. All that and more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs post-game show.
But first, I'm used to being let down in my life, and I was let down tonight on the Sleeper app. PJ Washington, of course, did not score more than 13.5 points. I'm waiting to see what happens with that. But Kyrie Irving didn't get to 30 points plus rebounds plus assists. Alperen Sengun didn't even get to a double-double. How about that? So I think that proves it. I'm not a ball knower, guys. I'm not a ball knower.
You are, though.
Thank you, KG.
You are.
If you, though, think that you're a ball knower, unlike me, then you can put your ball knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite Alperen Sengun players will have more or less than their projected stats each game. With Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. If you think you have what it takes, new users can download the Sleeper app and use the code DLLS Mavs to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. Apply it to any contest. Doesn't even have to be your first. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Again, DLLS Mavs promo code. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
It's bowl season in college football, and you want to go to what is the premier all-star game in college football. You got to go to the East-West Shrine Bowl. It's America's oldest college football all-star game, and it's being held right here in the heart of Texas. It's on January 30th. Be a part of history in the making at the 100th East-West Shrine Bowl at AT&T Stadium. Since 1925, the game has benefited Shriners Children's and its mission to provide innovative pediatric specialty care to improve and transform the lives of children. You can see some of the nation's top college football players play in this head-to-head competition ahead of the April NFL draft in 2025. The East-West Shrine Bowl has served as the starting point for many noteworthy NFL careers, including 80 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and more than 200 members of the College Football Hall of Fame as well. Tickets start at just $20, so visit shrinebowl.com to buy your tickets today. Again, tickets start at just $20 for the 100th East-West Shrine Bowl. Visit shrinebowl.com to buy your tickets today. As we continue here on the DLLS Mavs post-game show, the Mavericks fall 110-99 on the road to the Houston Rockets. The story coming out of tonight's game, PJ Washington did not play in the second half with a right knee sprain. We await what his status is as the Mavericks get ready to return to the American Airlines Center on Friday to take on the best team in the Eastern Conference in what is the Cleveland Cavaliers. But gentlemen, the turning point of tonight's game, as we get to it here, really came in what was a devastating second quarter, particularly at the 7:51 mark. The Mavericks were up 10 at 40-30, but Max Cleveland was called for a flagrant foul that led to Alperen Sengun getting to the free throw line, made one of those free throws, eventually turned into a 4-point possession. And overall, gentlemen, it turned into what became a 23-4 run by the Houston Rockets over a 5-minute span. That's all the Mavericks go from what was a 10-point lead to what was a 9-point deficit at 53-44 with 2:51 left in the second quarter. And Bobby, that's where things pretty much got turned around for the Rockets to really put control on this game going forward for the rest of tonight's
Yeah,
outcome.
I mean, they just really lost the thread. They committed a lot of turnovers. The Rockets just made a lot of twos, a lot of layups, a lot of runouts. It's you like lose the thread real quick, right? Where you give up 4 or 5 buckets in a row, which means it's harder to score. You miss 4 or 5 shots in a row, which means it's harder to defend. And whenever you are missing and not getting stops, then things can unravel very, 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 very quickly. In this era, you know, the Rockets aren't bombing threes at halftime. The Mavs were outscoring them by 15 points from beyond the arc, and yet they were still down 10 or 9 or whatever. Because the Rockets are making their free throws, the Mavs bricked a bunch of free throws. The Mavs are turning it over. The Rockets were not.
Wasn't it also 19-3 in free throw attempts in the first half? It ended up being a lot more even at the end.
Yeah.
19-3 at the line in the first half.
Yeah, and then the Mavs got a lot of free throws in the third quarter and went 5 of 11 on them. So, yeah, I mean, you know, the Rockets were physical. The Mavs were not. The Rockets are going to the basket. The Mavs weren't. Outside of Jaden Hardy, I thought I was heaping praise on Hardy on the watch along. I thought he was fantastic for most of this game. He was the only Mav that was able to get to the rim. He was the only Mav that was even able to get 2 feet in the paint. He was drawing in defenders and making reads, making passes, setting guys up. He wasn't really forcing anything for the most part. I think his first 3 came either late in the second quarter or in the second half.
It was in the first half.
It was okay.
Are you sure
so
the
it's
turning
two
point
consecutive
wasn't
threes.
when you guys said we're going to do a watch along for this game?
Oh, that's tough.
Damn, Stein.
That's tough.
Whose decision was that?
Too soon.
Like, I mean, to your point, we are
I
now
need
0
two
we are now
sources
0
before I
2.
report it, but I have an inkling.
I mean, to your point, we are now 0 2 in watch along so far this year. Both of them happen to be road
Our
games.
plus minus and watch alongs is worse than
What
Gafford's.
was the first watch along was what?
OKC Cup game. We had talked about doing a watch along for the OKC game the Mavs won, but then
That's
whenever
right.
we were on the fence, and then everyone
Speaking of PJ
Luka was
Washington.
ruled out, and we were like, "Oh, we can't do that."
And we're not on the watch along, so thank you.
We're
for
not on the
censoring
watch
yourself.
Yeah, we are not.
We're
Thank
not.
you very much.
Yeah, I mean,
We're not.
Jaden Hardy had to be good and to provide some competency to the offense, because that was so rough from Kyrie. Just an inability to look. He was getting double teamed all game by
I mean,
every.
that's like, even without Thompson and Eason, they are swarmy. I mean, it's what the Rockets love to do. I mean, they play super physical defense and relish doing so.
Okay, but when Luka gets double teamed, he gets the ball to the player that it needs to go to break the defense. What Kyrie was struggling at, I care less about the fact that he was kind of quiet. You know, I think he had 5 or 7 points at halftime. I care much more that he looked like athletically outmatched, trying to get the ball where it needs to go, either to the
He threw
the
that
center slipping, or
he threw that wounded duck against the double team that Houston picked off. That was in the second quarter. That was a tough one.
that one was tough. I think there was one in the first half where he tried to get it to Gafford in the middle.
That's the one I'm talking about.
That's the one you're talking about. I think that was first half, but
Yeah.
That-
It was the second quarter.
you said second quarter, not
Yeah.
second half. That one was really rough. There's other times where he tried to dribble all the way around the double team, and I just think that 5 years ago Kyrie does that and probably has a highlight layup out of it. He's not doing that in the same way, and that's, I don't know, man. That's a little concerning, because obviously this is what Oklahoma City did to him in the in the conference semifinals, and Luka was a little bit limited in that series, and it did really stymie the Mavs offense for long stretches. But
he called that the toughest series he's ever played in his life.
Yeah.
And it's the only time in his career he's been double teamed to that degree.
I don't think there's more than 10, maybe even just 5 teams that can do this to him. But it does matter that the best defenses, the ones that you're going to play in the postseason, are now showing a track record of making Kyrie Irving look very mortal if you just go high trap him. And he's not finding the slip well, the slip to the big man. He's not able to round the corner. Way too often he backs up and then backs up some more and makes it even a more difficult trap on him. This is stuff that, because he's Kyrie Irving, I believe he can solve, because I believe he can do anything on a basketball court. But this is now becoming a bit of a track record where, it's not about him single-handedly beating doubles. That's not what the NBA is about, when you get doubles. It's about getting to your 4-on-3 offense. And I just thought the offense looked way better when that wasn't happening, when he wasn't on the court, to be quite frank. I thought Dallas was actually moving a little bit more consistently. I don't really buy plus-minus individual game plus-minus numbers nearly as much for any position that's not center, any position that's not platoon, but minus 16. So, that implies that Dallas was a positive when he was not on the court. So, any path to success, I've got to clarify, this goes out, can get disseminated anywhere. Any path for Dallas to be successful over the next month without Luka, any path for them to be successful in a deep playoff run, it runs through Kyrie, as much as any other player not named Lively and Luka. But this is something that is now becoming an issue that I think that he's got to work to solve a little bit.
The Mavericks were outscored 65-45 in the middle 2 quarters in the second and third quarter, particularly that second quarter, outscored by 15, 37-22. You think about some of the numbers from that particular period. Kent Whitmore played all 12 minutes of that second quarter, had 13 points, was a plus 15. Conversely, when you think about what the Mavericks had on there, and Quentin Grimes led the Mavericks with 7 points in that period, but it was just too easy of a time, especially for guys like Alperen Sengun, to be able to get into the middle of the paint. He went 4 for 4 in the 8 minutes that he played, and when Lively went out with the foul trouble, Daniel Gafford had to try to contend with Sengun in the middle, and it simply was not able to work out for him when you look at that second quarter alone, Daniel Gafford in the 3 minutes that he played was a negative 12 in the 3 minutes that he played there. So again, that just underscores how poorly those minutes were played and how the Rockets were able to take advantage of real paint presence in terms of on the defensive end for the Mavericks, despite the fact that the Mavericks had 7 blocks in the first half. This is coming off of a game against Sacramento where they had a season-high 13 in that game against Sacramento on Monday. But, Mark, for this team, any way that you slice it, whether it be the turnovers, the poor play in the second quarter, as we start thinking about this big picture, none of this is really going to change in terms of the personnel here. Like, this is who you got. Obviously, you get Najee Marshall back after the game on Friday when you take on the Cleveland Cavaliers.
But, that is a huge miss. Especially, all the stuff Tim is describing. It's like not having that 6'7" monster who doesn't turn it over and who makes all those reads. Like, it creates such a void that, like, they don't just need Pete, Kyrie, and Lively back and PJ not to have a knee injury. Najee Marshall is a big part of this offense.
You can't double Kyrie when he's out there.
Like, it just that is a
Dante Exum too.
Yeah, they haven't seen Exum for a minute, so it's like, again, I don't want to drill down too much on the details of a bad night in Houston. I'm blown away that just since, first of all, we're one day into 2025. You sound more crestfallen than at any point since I've ever sat next to you.
No. I don't feel crestfallen at all. I thought they were going to lose by double digits. This is what I thought would happen.
It's like, this was such a long trip. Like, I am so eager to just get a vibe check on these guys when they're back home. Because again, it feels like they've been on the road for an eternity. It just the whole script of, they win in Phoenix, but obviously the suspensions happen, and it has just been one thing after another. So it is good that they got Lively back out there and that he was able to play a little bit beyond his minutes restriction and looked good. But beyond that, and the fact that Quentin Grimes apparently said that he had 50 guests at the game tonight because it was in Houston, like, you are reaching to try to find silver linings right now. This team, it just needs, it needs a modicum of health. Like, it's not, like, again, Luka is out. He's out for January. You know that. You accept that. But it's all these other things that are going on, these other absences. And, this has just been a really challenging week. It's a week since Christmas, right? It's just been a really challenging week, But again, I guess the other positive, the way they responded to being 5-7 and the Utah loss, the way they responded to that, no bell. Look, that's how discombobulated things are.
Right, can't even get the damn bell.
We've even thrown Tanner.
And I am still, next segment, I want to talk a little bit about how I still feel relatively optimistic, not because of this game, not because of anything. There's not a lot of optimism, like you said, Mark, that can be drawn specifically from this game. But I still am not doom. I am not feeling, doomerism or accelerationism about, this coming month.
Acceleration.
Yeah, I'm not feeling that.
No show invents more words than DLLS Mavs.
Oh, that's a very real word.
That's a real word.
It's a very real word. I'm not feeling anyway, we'll talk about it next segment, but I still think this team will be okay.
Here.
Yeah. I can tell you why.
We'll talk about what happened with him tonight, plus what optimism we can see as the Mavericks get ready to come home to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers on Friday, as they will play 5 of the next 6 games at the American Airlines Center. Plus, we'll dial up the timeline a little bit later on in our show as well. All that coming up next here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show.
Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. They probably even have a style in your favorite team's colors. What I like about Shady Rays is that they have the best eyewear protection in all of eyewear. You know, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. You know, if something happens to them, just go get a new one. A new pair of your favorite sunglasses, the pair that you love. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deals of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Let me talk to you about Game Time real quick. If you want to go to your favorite sporting event, concert, or comedy show, you got to use Game Time to get your tickets. It's bowl season, and Texas is headed to the Cotton Bowl to take on Ohio State for the right to get to the national championship game. And if you want to go see the game, it's going to be at AT&T Stadium, so you got to use Game Time to get your tickets. They got panoramic seat views, so you know exactly where you're sitting before you purchase your tickets, and they got all-in pricing as well, so you're not surprised by any surprise fees by the time you get to checkout as well. And with the lowest price guaranteed, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DLLS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today for your last-minute tickets and your lowest price guaranteed. Gentlemen, what time is it?
Game
time.
Game time.
That was a weak game time, but that's okay.
I hollered.
That's what you call that?
I said
Game time.
That's more of a whimper type of thing. I don't know
Dude,
what
you
that
sound like you were in agony.
I'm not in agony. It's just, this is a very serious situation. Like, it's going to be really, really, really every single game. I mean, I was running through the schedule on the pregame show. Like, their next 13 games are very, very tough. Their only easy ones are second nights of back-to-backs. Like, it's going to be really hard for them to win a game anytime in the next, like, 2 or 3
Want to run
weeks.
through it again because I missed it.
Sure, yeah. So here's the Mavs, excluding tonight, which
I've only
obviously
looked as
counted as
far
a very
ahead
tough
as,
game.
I'm up to date through Tuesday. I know.
Okay, so it's Cleveland
Oh,
at Memphis versus Lakers back-to-back versus Portland. Okay, well, you just lost to Portland. Versus Nuggets. That second Nuggets game is an 8:30 p.m. game. The next night, back-to-back in New Orleans, that starts at 7. So that's 22 and a half hours in between tip-offs. That is the least amount of time permissible under NBA bylaws allowed on a back-to-back.
We
travel.
got to eliminate home, road, home back-to-backs. We got to get rid of that.
Versus
insane.
Thunder at Hornets. Okay, that's probably a win, you'd hope. Versus Wolves at Thunder back-to-back versus Celtics. And that's January 25th.
And again,
So there's 2 games that aren't back-to-backs that are against losing teams right now? 2 in the next 24 days. It must be so nice to be the Milwaukee Bucks. That's all I'm saying.
And again, that Timberwolves Thunder back-to-back, that's a home road back-to-back. Like in a little over 24 hours. Like, again, I can't say this loud enough. Eliminate home, road, home back-to-backs. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. That and 10 p.m. Eastern Standard start times. Those got to go.
Yeah, so it's just
go.
my way of saying this is a very tough schedule. This is a very injured team, a very tired team. And I just want to communicate and convey the seriousness of the situation. And I also don't think Kyrie should have played 38 minutes tonight. I just want to
not when he wasn't effective, not when the offense looked as
you got to sneak rest while you can right now because
Right.
you cannot afford to sit him for games. So he should have played 30 minutes tonight, if that.
Yeah, I very much tend to agree.
Which gets us to how obviously the Rockets were playing Kyrie Irving tonight. The Mavericks falling 110-99, but also Tim trying to find some optimism in some of this because Bobby kind of laid out the schedule in terms of the difficulty and the opponent that you're going to be seeing. The Mavericks going to be playing pretty much every other day. What it feels like for the entire month of January, the first of 16 January games played tonight for the Dallas Mavericks, but obviously without their superstar, where are you finding some of these silver linings and some of the positivity for this team, given what we know about them so far now through 34 games?
I mean, so there's 15 games left in January. Dallas is 6 games over 500. I think a reasonable goal is to be at least 500 when Luka gets back. And can they go 5-10 the rest of the month? That would keep them over 500. Like 5-10 is it's not a great stretch of games. That's not doing, that is not amazing work, but it would keep them over 500.
That is not Cope steady.
Here's the thing, though. When Dallas is healthy, when they have their starting lineup out there, the 14 games that Dereck Lively has started and the rest of the starters have been healthy, or 14 games that at least that lineup has played. I'm not even talking. There's been 14 games where they've played. They are 11-3. That is a 80.800 winning percentage, 80% winning percentage. You're winning 4 out of every 5 games. Let's say Luka is out until the NBA All-Star break.
Don't say that.
Let's just say that's 22 games.
I don't like that.
To stay over 500, you got to go 8-14.
Oh gosh.
Well, this is also why the Mavs started 6-2 in games without Luka, and every time players were asked about it, you could almost hear them not really people would say, "How are you guys doing this without Luka?" And it was nobody really wanted to talk about it because they know how hard it is. They know it just wasn't sustainable. It was awesome that they could win 6 out of 8 without him, but that's just not reality, and we are now seeing reality.
Because it's now 7-5 without him.
Here, let's not even worry about what their record is going into the All-Star break. I think 500 is a good thing to aim for. In a worst case scenario where Luka is really going to miss all the time, we don't know. I am just imagining a worst case scenario where he has to stay out until the All-Star break. Every reasonable assumption is that he's back after that. No matter when he actually returns, he will be back after the All-Star break. The schedule also gets a bit lighter, after the All-Star break. You're playing, let's see, you're playing New Orleans, you're playing Charlotte, you're playing, you get a couple games against Milwaukee, that's tough, but you get a Sacramento team, you get a San Antonio team, tough games, but winnable. You get an Indiana, Detroit, Brooklyn, you get an Orlando, going to be healthier, still a tough one. You get another Brooklyn, you get an Atlanta, you get a Toronto, you get the Clippers. Tough games, but these are all winnable games. And they're winnable because Dallas should be healthy by that point. If Dallas after the All-Star break is still not healthy, then pack it up, curse season. But Dallas has been so healthy that, you cannot survive an entire season where you're hurt, all of your key players are hurt for the entirety of it. But they're hurt now. What you have to assume is that they're going to be healthy. You have to assume that. Dallas is winning at an 80% clip when these guys are out there. 80%. They've got, what did I say, 26 games, 25 games after the All-Star break. Does 20-5, are they able to maintain that? Is that really the team that you believe this is? If that's not the team, if this team is not that good when the starting 5 is out there, then they're not going to win the finals. So what's the point of the season anyway? If that's what everybody is worried about, this team, I believe, might be that good. I think all the evidence, all the numbers points to this team being a top 4, top 5 team in the NBA. And so when they get back and they have 25 games after the All-Star break to catch back up, yes, stuff can happen. There's going to be nights where maybe Luka has to sit out again. And that's why you want that cushion. But are you telling me this team can't go 20-5, 19-6 after the All-Star break?
You can't bank on that. The whole point of this season was to not have to win every game that you have to win in March just to not be in the play-in.
Well, you lost that chance.
I know.
That's what I'm saying.
Sucks.
I'm not saying this is a good situation.
Yeah,
what I'm saying is this team can salvage a less than 500 record if they have 26, 25 games after the All-Star break run through and play at that level.
If they win at a 65 win rate for 2 months, yeah, sure.
And
if any team wins at a 65 win, I don't think any team is capable. I think the Mavs are capable of doing that, but then you better do it. And if they're 500 with 25 games left, they're going to win 44 games this year.
I think if they're healthy, after the All-Star break, and they don't do that, then again, I think that this team is not quite as good as, again, you lost our room for margin of error. I fully admit that. I fully concede that.
Well, look,
but the margin of error is gone now. So what do you do in response? They do have a decent stretch of games.
It is just look. That's the problem. That's the NBA. It is such a long season. And when they were 5-7, we all sat here, your favorite guys covering your favorite team, talking about this is supposed to be the deepest Mavs team ever. And then they go 15-3, and we're just like, the depth is depthing. They look like the deepest team ever. And now in these last 3 games, with injuries, suspensions, and everything that has happened since the Phoenix game, it feels like it did when they were 5-7. So, I mean, it has been a roller coaster. And the reality is, as deep as they are, there are going to be more ups and downs and twists and turns because, again, it's just the season is too damn long.
It's a long
and missing Luka to survive Luka's absence, you pretty much need everything else to go right, and they are well shy of everything else going right. I mean, Cam Whitmore had 10 threes this season. He made 3 tonight. I mean, so it's like just everywhere you look right now.
And I still believe this team is deep. I still think this is the deepest team of the Luka era. Don't let the past few games, like, it's not just Luka who's been out the past few games. You know, tonight it was half a game of Lively, half a game of PJ Washington. Najee was out. You know, at some point, Dante Exum is coming back. The past few games, there's been even more players out. You know, some of them for suspensions, you know, something that you never would have factored into this team's depth and you know, lack thereof. This team is still very deep. I still like the team's chances. If Luka and one other role player are the only players out, I still like this team's chances in a lot of games. I don't like their chances when they're down 4 or 5 players. No team, no matter how deep, is still deep when you're missing 3, 4, 5 role players. I still think this team is pretty competent and pretty able to win games if they can stay healthy outside of Luka, you know? But that's been the issue. The issue is not specifically Luka. Now, I mean, it's the start of the issues, of course. But it's not specifically Luka. It's everybody else also joining him. You know, so all of these problems that we've talked about, and there's some real problems, you know, the backup center, as we talked about, Daniel Gafford, you know, his performances, that's an issue. You know, Kyrie and double teams, that's more of a niche issue. You're not going to run into that every night. It's just something we're noting for
they
the
might
playoffs.
now.
But
That's true, though.
Again,
that's absolutely true.
They might.
But I think it looks better if you have Najee out there, which you won't have him next game. But I think it looks better with Najee out there. If Dante Exum can get back this month, I think it looks better with him out there. I think it looks better, you know, with players like that. So if this team, they have to have fewer injuries. You know, like Luka is baked in at this point. We understand Luka's going to be out, you know, until he's back next month at some point. But the rest of this team has to be healthy. And if they are, I still like that team against, you know, opponents that aren't like Cleveland, who's 29-4.
And I guess that's, for me, kind of looking at it before we take our next break here, the idea of it will be better with those guys back, but how much better does that translate into wins, especially with the schedule that you're about to play? And even in the nights that you're going to have most of these guys back, the amount of time and energy that it's going to put on Kyrie Irving here over the next month and a half is going to be intense. And to your point, while they're an 11-3 team with the starting 5 that, you know, we projected to have them throughout the course of the year,
or just at any point, the 14 games where all 5 of those players have played,
or 11-3, to try to ask this team to do what they did a year ago, when in their most meaningful games they went 16-2 down the stretch, just to get themselves a top 5 seed, is going to be a lot to ask. And the last thing I'll say to it too is, while the most optimistic thing would be that this team will have the kind of health that they need to in order to make that kind of run, to be honest with you, when it comes to 77, I'm not presuming health, to be honest with you, because the amount of nicks and injuries that he's dealt with already before the left calf strain, that to me doesn't give me a lot of confidence. Hopefully, yes, that he is healthy for the rest of the year, but it would not surprise me if he misses another 5 or 7 games, even after he comes back, whether it be due to injury maintenance or giving him a night off or him getting injured again. So they got to find a way to at least steady the ship while they can until Luka Doncic gets back, because otherwise they're going to put a lot of pressure on themselves to get there. But that's why they play the games. You got to get out there and play the games and figure out what you have and going forward there. And we will start to see that when the league, or the Eastern Conference's best team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, come into town on Friday to take on the Dallas Mavericks. Let's take our final break here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. Coming up next, we'll dive into the Stein line with our National NBA insider, Mark Stein. Get your thoughts as well in the chat on tonight's game, and looking forward to the game on Friday.
Last batch of reads alert. Last batch of reads alert.
Coming up next.
That's not a real thing, Stein.
On the DLLS Mavs postgame show.
Hey, pay your rent and then become a diehard. If you scan that thing, that QR code right there, or you click the link in the description below.
Oh boy,
you click the link in the Disky.
the landlord wasn't playing like rent was due tonight. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
I was trying to think of the right joke for that, and
yeah. Maybe my rent will be minus 27.
Get $27 knocked off your rent after what happened today.
But if you want to take your support for what we're doing here, well, first off, if you want to support what we're doing here at DLLS Sports, sub to the channel, like the stream. Bunch of people are watching. Bunch of people are chatting. I know it's hard times. It's gonna be a hard month, but we're going through it together here, trying to build a community from the ground up here at DLLS Sports. So thank you to everybody that's watched and subbed and everything. If you want to take your support one step further, though, QR code, link in the description, alldls.com/diehard, less than $7 a month. You can financially support what we're doing here. In exchange, we will give you a free shirt when you sign up and a discount on any other stuff you want to buy, including shirts, hoodies, mugs, flags, soon-to-be hats that look kind of like the one Mark Stein has. You get to join the DLLS Discord server. You get a physical diehard card.
Physical diehard card.
Discount on events. We got an event coming up for diehards only. And also, like, you don't have to be a diehard to come to some of our events. Like, for example, hey, you like Pokemon Go? Jeff Kavanaugh and I are going to have a Pokemon Go meetup at a local park whenever it's Unova Tour. Mark, I know you'll be there.
I can't believe you guys.
Believe it, buddy. We're going to do it. Yeah, in whatever way you choose to support what we're doing, that is awesome, and we really appreciate
Physical
you.
diehard
I really
card?
appreciate your physical diehard card, the whole
that.
bit.
That's right.
Thank you for listening and for coming to my TED Talk, and please discount my rent.
AllDLLS.com. Become a diehard member today for less than $7 a month. Tag us on social media and let us know you're part of our DLLS Sports.
Shout out to Dustin,
family.
Jared, Michael, Dennis, Brian, Casey, and Brandon, all of our newest diehard signups. Shout out to y'all.
As we finish up here on the DLLS Mavs post-game show, Mavericks fall 110-99 on the road to the Houston Rockets, finishing up their 4-game road trip at 1-3. They begin what is 5 of their next 6 games at home on Friday when they welcome in the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Eastern Conference's best team. Najee Marshall will miss that game. That will be the 4th and final game of his suspension after the altercation that he had with Yusuf Nurkic and the Phoenix Suns. Dereck Lively made his return tonight after missing the last few games with a left hip contusion. But Mark Stein, as we dive into and dial up the Stein line here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show, the story, of course, is forward PJ Washington, who did not play in the second half of tonight's game with a right knee sprain that he's injured in the first half of tonight's game. We detailed it a little bit earlier. Mavericks 1-7 in games this season without Washington's services. Hopefully, this is not a long-term concern for him as he is dealing with this knee sprain here.
Look, I'm obviously not in Houston. There's only so much info I can get. What I've been able to gather, I believe there will be imaging tomorrow to try to determine the severity of it. So I don't think we're going to get clarity tonight on what the prognosis is. It's going to require an MRI tomorrow to establish the specifics of the injury and some sort of injury timetable. So, like I said, I've been trying to connect with anyone that I can in Houston who might have a picture for us, and we're just not getting a ton yet because I don't think, frankly, they know a whole lot yet. And we've talked now for 3 segments, and I would go back to what I think I said in segment 1. The whole tenor of this show, for me, it would be a lot easier to sum up and project how I would foresee what's coming up here in this very challenging month of January when we know the PJ specifics. Because again, without Luka Doncic, they cannot afford to miss another key person. I mean, they need every ounce of everyone else on the roster that they can muster.
And on the replay, I mean, we saw a slight look to me. I'm just describing what I saw, but it looked like a slight buckle to the knee. A knee sprain isn't a good thing. It isn't necessarily the scariest thing that can happen to a knee, and it really could be, any there's a lot of range of outcomes, based off what I saw, based off my history of hearing that term and the timetables that get associated with it. Mark Stein, I have a question for you.
Fire away.
Unrelated to PJ Washington. So Luka is not traveling with the team right now. Is there, or do you have, or you have an explanation or a reason? Maybe not an explanation. You know, I could guess the reason as well. But what's kind of the thinking behind that, if you know, and is there a plan at some point for him to rejoin the team on the road? Because I've been directly asked that, and I've seen that in the chat as well.
I don't know when, but I mean, the plan for this, especially at this early juncture, is pretty straightforward. It's like keep him as close to rehab facilities as he can, so all the focus is on rehabbing this injury. I mean, there have been so many calf strains and so many left leg issues that, like, the last thing they want is to take him away from the rehab nerve center, which is here. So I think the focus is just on, you know, day and night rehab to get him right. Because ultimately, look, even if they did great in the month of January and hung in there without him and posted a winning record without him, I mean, this team just went to the finals. The only thing that matters to this franchise is winning it all, and you're not doing that without 77. So I think the priority is just to simplify his life to the point to make everything so everything is focused on getting him rehab and back ASAP. And
I think I saw the idea in the chat that, you know, and I get the sentiment, you know, but the idea in the chat was he should be there as a leader.
No, especially not like
he'll be there at home.
How severe? I mean, like he planted and suffered a pretty serious calf strain on a like they don't need him traveling, especially in the early stages of this. I mean, they need him rehabbing. That's all.
100%.
That's all that. I mean, to me, that's all.
What does that usually entail? Is that like exercise and stuff, or is it just wrapping and massage it, or like what goes into that sort of thing?
I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm an expert in how you rehab specifically, but I mean, it typically means that, you know, you're getting, I mean, round the clock, maybe round the clock is an exaggeration because it's not like playoff time, but it's like if you stay home, if you don't travel, you have the ability to go to the practice facility at any time and get treatment at any time. If you travel and if you're, you know, moving around from city to city, you can't do that. So I think the idea is you want to be home so you have full access to your home team, home city.
Whereas whenever he was going through that injury in the playoffs, I think what I had heard at the time is that it was like every 3 hours in the middle of the night.
And that's different.
Like,
you're in the playoffs. You have to travel, so it's like you have to. The rehabbing and
is round the clock.
The medical care has to be that way because you're getting treatment in hotel rooms. I mean, it's just a different scenario. But like, I guess I didn't see that stuff in the chat. I'm surprised that there would be like so soon after this injury that has knocked him out for at least a month. Like, why would you want him traveling and sitting on?
I think that comes from a place of just like not knowing what it entails, like what rehab entails. You know?
Yeah, and just like wanting, like reaching for something to fix the team. I get it. You know, I'm not making fun of the idea, but that's why I wanted to bring it up, because to explain why that's not happening, to explain why it does make more sense. You know, there is both the strength element that you were trying to regain the strength that has been lost from the muscle tear. But to some, you know, it's the tear's got to heal first. But you know, there's a bunch of stuff you can also do in terms of, you know,
like that's the thing you hear. Like if someone,
it's increasing blood circulation in the leg. You know, like those, I forget the name, but there's like these big sleeves that compress and decompress and compress. I've had that on my knees before.
Yeah, there's like, okay, if you like tear your Achilles or if you tear your ACL or whatever, then you are like supposed to be inactive and really kind of not touch that thing after the surgery for a long time. In which case, oftentimes we do see guys travel because it's like there's really nothing you can do for that for several months. You know, you have to kind of let it heal surgically. But for this, there's no surgery. So like you can treat it right away.
Because to be clear, a strain of a calf muscle is a partial tear.
Yeah, like a tiny tear.
Yeah, it just
depends. We also don't know the grade.
And that's what I was going to say. We don't know the grade in terms of the actual strain itself. But those who have seen and covered, you know, calf strains and other injuries like that, it is a partial tear.
Reevaluation in a month indicates.
Yes, it suggests.
Suggests is the right. It suggests a grade 2. But it suggests.
But we still are guessing. So like I'm refraining from that because I mean,
there's been no official word in terms of the grade.
That is the appropriate journalistic way to handle this. But yes, it does, based off past precedent of other players, it suggests a grade 2.
Let's take a look around at the NBA itself in terms of the current standings in the league, especially in the Western Conference. The Mavericks played their 34th game of the season tonight. We are getting that much closer, boys and girls, to the official halfway point of the season, if you will, when it comes to games played. With the Mavericks loss tonight, they dropped to 5th in the West.
Can you say Cleveland's record out loud again?
Cleveland is 29-4.
I mean, it's like
and
we are like I mean,
and ironically, they're not even the hottest team in the East right now. That belongs to the Knicks. They've won 9 straight.
10 of 11.
Two easiest strengths of schedule in the NBA. But still, you're winning games.
You play
Cavs now, is it a 5-game lead over the Celtics or 6-game lead?
5.
I mean, that's...
Yeah.
And now Boston has hit a bit of a rough patch itself. But, like, again, this season has been dominated by injury talk, the proliferation of three-point shooting, and probably 4 or 5 other topics that escape me at this late night hour. But we have done so little discussion about the Cavs. And it is a year ago at this time, Cleveland was in the position that Sacramento is in right now. And everybody was saying, they're not going to be able to sign Donovan Mitchell. They're going to have to trade Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's not going to extend. And in the space of, they barely squeaked by Orlando in the playoffs. We're not competitive in the second round, but they got Donovan, last season they won over Donovan Mitchell. They convinced Donovan Mitchell to pledge his long-term future to the Cavs.
And they made a change to head coach.
They signed Jared Allen to an extension. They signed Evan Mobley to an extension. They dismissed JB Bickerstaff. They hire Kenny Atkinson. And now look at these 29-4. For so long, there were, these guys don't fit. Their 4-star players don't go together. Mobley and Garland have played so much better this year than they have in the past. Mitchell's workload has been reduced somehow because they're so deep. And, Friday night's going to be my first in-person look at these guys. And I know Mavs fans probably aren't terribly concerned about how the Cavs look, but 29-4.
Dereck Lively is going to kick Evan Mobley's ass. Going to shut him down.
Then what happens when Jared Allen comes in?
It's none of your business.
Figured. Let's look at the real quick, the top 6 in the East, and we'll go to the West real quick. Cavs at 29-4. Boston's at 24-9. The Knicks, as I mentioned, the hottest team in the East right now. They've won 9 straight. They're 24-10. Orlando at 20-15. Milwaukee, Bobby's Bucks are 17-14. Miami, with Jimmy Butler, who wants to be there or doesn't want to be there, who knows at this point. They're 17-14. That makes up the top 6 in the Eastern Conference. Switching over to the West, as I mentioned, with the Mavericks lost tonight, that drops into 5th in the West. Oklahoma City right now, they're the hottest team in the league overall. They have won 12 straight games. They are 27-5 right now. They're trying to run away and hide with the number 1 seed in the West. Memphis is 23-11. Houston, with their win tonight, moves to 22-11. The lead that the Thunder have over the Grizzlies and the Rockets is 5 and 5.5 games. And then Denver comes in as the 4 seed right now at 19-13. Then the Mavericks and then the Clippers are the top 6 teams in the West. Teams 7 through 10. Lakers, Timberwolves, Spurs actually holding down the 9 seed right now at a game above 500 after 33 games. And the Golden State Warriors at an even 500 in the 10th spot at 16-16. So that kind of gives you a lay of the land when it comes to the top teams in the Western Conference through the first now 33, 34 games for most teams in the West. So, the loss tonight is just hopefully not a harbinger of things to come. But when you start looking at the schedule that the Mavericks have, things can get pretty tricky pretty quickly based off of who they are going to be playing next. And it doesn't get any easier on Friday. That'll do it here for our DLLS Mavs postgame show. Really appreciate all of you joining us here on the postgame show. We'll be back on Friday for our pregame show when the Mavericks get ready to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to DLLS Sports, and also do the same for our podcast as well. For our National NBA Insider, Mark Stein, that's our Mavericks analyst, Bobby Krilla. That's our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato. I'm your host, Kevin Gray. We're DLLS Mavs. We'll talk to you on Friday here on DLLS Mavs for our pregame show. Y'all be good. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.